Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe and share with a friend, an associate, a colleague, a relative, an immediate family member, an enemy, and anyone in between. Now this week there's not a huge amount of big fights or big cards on. Everything is kind of A side heavy, if I'm gonna be honest. So what I'm gonna do, every prediction I give this week is not just going to be about whether the right person wins, but it's going to be the method of how they actually get the job done as well. So without further ado, as we got a card tonight, that's where we're going to start. So we're going to kick it off with the Boxer card on Sky Sports. So the first fight up is the rematch, Vidal Riley versus Anish Taj 2. Now, I was actually at the first fight for these two. It was a very entertaining fight. It was probably fight of the night at the time of that card. It was again on the Adam Azim undercard, and it was at the OVO Arena in Wembley. I think it took place in February earlier on this year. Now, that fight got ended in the, I think it was the 5th round, based on a cut. So Vidal Riley basically struck Taj, opened up a cut on him. The doctors didn't allow the fight to go ahead. It was just above the eyelid. It was quite a bad one, to be fair, but Taj was livid that the fight got stopped. He felt he was fine, he could see everything. So now they're running it back. So clearly he's had stitches, he may have had a little bit of a skin graft over it as well, but technically it was a KO victory. Now in this particular fight, I think there will be a similar outcome. Basically, in the first fight, Riley was pretty much winning the majority of the rounds. Now Taj did have some good opportunities. He did catch Riley with a couple of decent shots, but I think I had it 4-0 or 3-1 at the time of the stoppage anyway. So Riley was pretty much dominating the fight in terms of accuracy and power punches. Now Taj says that, you know, Riley's punches didn't actually hurt, didn't really affect him, so that could be interesting moving forward into this fight. So maybe he might be a bit more gung-ho, feeling like he can take the power, and I feel like that will probably play into Riley's hands, because he will end up walking Taj onto something and making it a little bit more conclusive. I do also think there's going to be opportunity for that cut to open up again, especially, you know, once you kind of get one of those cuts, the scar tissue, they start to open up really quick. So I would not be surprised if that does occur. However, I do feel like in this fight, Taj is going to go a bit more gung-ho, not going to be as defensively aware, and ultimately I do think that Vidal Riley will manage to get a clean stoppage in this fight. I think it will go a little longer. I believe it's I think they're going, no, it's an 8-rounder. I've just remembered it's an 8-rounder. So I think it goes to maybe round 7, but I think by the time you get to the 7th round, there would have been significant enough damage underneath Taj to where Vidal Riley can actually take him out and, yeah, win this fight via stoppage in round number 7. So that is my pick. Next up, you've got Yanina Lescano against Caroline Dubois, aka Sweet Caroline Dubois. Now everyone knows I'm extremely high on Caroline Dubois. She's got an extremely high ceiling. She's a vicious body puncher. She's a really strong and powerful individual, good punching, good poise, you know, sort of, she sits down, sort of digs her toes into the ground and really gets leverage in on her shots. Now the good thing about Lescano, she's a tough Argentinian. If you know anything about Argentinian fighters, they've got extremely high work rates, extremely good engines, and extremely good chins. Very rarely do you see an Argentinian get put down, you know, via a headshot, chin, jaw, equilibrium, anything like that. Whenever they do get hurt, it's always to the body. Now Caroline Dubois is a very good body puncher. She's she's probably one of the best in terms of the prospects, especially. I think the only people above her within body punching is probably Savannah Marshall, and maybe even Shadeja Green. I think those two there. Then you've got someone like Caroline, and then after that I believe you've got Chantel Cameron and Shannon Ryan. So and obviously Amanda Serrano, how could I forget her? She's probably one of the best female body punchers at this precise moment in time. So the way I see this fight going though, Lezcano is pretty much she's gonna crowd and she's gonna try to ambush Caroline Dubois consistently in this fight. She's gonna stick close enough to her that she can't get full torque and leverage into her shots, but I feel like she'll also stay out of range enough that Caroline can't wing in sort of the, you know, those really heavy handed shots, you know, the ones where you really sort of twist your hips and your waist into it. So I feel like she's gonna attempt to cut off those routes of opportunity for Caroline. So Caroline's main point in this one is going to have to be to keep the hands up, keep the head moving, wait for Lezcano to throw, and then try to counter punch her when she's throwing. Ultimately, Caroline I do see being the stronger of the two. She's definitely sort of got the thicker body, stockier. She's a stockier girl, just looks a lot more powerful and dense, but Lezcano's got the height and the reach advantage. So with that, I feel that Caroline may have some frustrating times trying to get in on the inside from time to time, but she will get there and she will let off enough to pay dividends moving forward. So once she manages to find her range, I do believe that she will, you know, be able to work consistently and to outwork Lezcano within those particular realms. I don't think this is a 8-rounder for Caroline. I don't think that she's gonna have enough time within the rounds to work fully, you know, to the body, to the head, and not, you know, without worrying about what's coming back, because that's one thing she hasn't really had to worry too much about what's coming back at, even though she does well to sort of defend that. But Lezcano is a very good operator, and I think she's good enough that she will basically push the pace on Caroline as well, make Caroline have to take those breaks, have to reset, have to try and find new angles, and ultimately I think she may also pick up a round or two within this fight. But I do think that Caroline will win this fight quite comfortably, showing that she's levels above, but I think this one does go points. I don't think she gets Lezcano out of there, and if she does, it definitely won't be until like round 7 or 8. But yeah, I'm predicting this one is a unanimous decision points for Caroline Dubois. Moving to the main event of the card, you've got Frazer Clarke versus Mariusz Wach. And look, Wach is, I think he's like 32-9 or something at this point in time, 43 years old, 6'8", I believe, and he came in, I think, just under a stone heavier than Frazer Clarke did, who came in, I think, around 19.4. Wach, I think, was 20 stone 5 or 20 stone 6. So he's definitely got the size advantage. He'll have the weight advantage. So the one thing that Frazer can't really do is look to grapple on the inside too much. That's not to say that he's not as strong as Wach, because he probably is, but you don't want to be burning unnecessary energy if you don't have to. So Frazer Clarke, to me, the best attacks is to, you know, sort of keep it at range, use your superior speed, jab to the body in the first few rounds, you know, sort of take a little bit of the movement away from Wach, even though there was not going to be a huge amount of it anyway, but take him out to the body and get those hands to lower before you start sort of trying to go for the jabs up top and those, you know, and playing that backhand. But Mariusz Wach, he's an incredibly tough guy. Out of his 9 defeats, he's only been stopped 4 times, and none of those times except for one has he ever been off his feet, and he's never actually been knocked out where he's been counted out and a 10 count by the referee. Is always being stopped on his feet by the ref. I think Martin Bakoli is the only person to actually drop him to the ground in a fight. So yeah, that goes to show just how tough he actually is as an opponent. Now, I do think that Frazer Clarke is going to win this fight fairly comfortably. I think he's going to have a little bit of maybe issues around the 4th to 6th rounds. just in terms of trying to manage energy and maybe stepping off the gas, just because he wants to make sure that he's got enough energy to sort of get through that round and get through that initial phase before sort of really picking it up towards the back end of the fight. But I do think that Vac he'll present angles and he'll present chances for Frazer Clarke to land and land consistently, but I don't think that Frazer is going to have enough firepower towards the back end of the fight to stop Vac, because he very rarely gets stopped before the 5th, 6th round. It's normally always towards the back end of 12 rounders or 10 rounders. So I do see this one getting to points, and I see Frazer Clarke winning quite comfortably on points, unanimous decision. We're probably talking like a 98-92 type scenario. Vac might get a couple rounds in there just due to activity, 99-91 sort of settings. But yeah, Frazer Clarke, I feel he'll win comfortably on points, but I don't think he'll get the KO. Now let's move over real quick to the States and Australia, as there are some cards over there to talk about. Okay, so moving on to the Matchroom card now. Only 2 fights to really concentrate on here. Ramla Ali versus Yulisa Guzman is the first one. So Ramla Ali is 8-0, I think, with 2 KOs at this point in time, whereas Yulisa Guzman is 12-2 with 6 KOs. So quite clearly you can see who pretty much has the power advantage, just on paper at least. Now Ramla Ali has definitely been sitting on her shots a lot better over the sort of the last few fights. She's trained by Manny Robles, and he seems to be doing wonders in actually getting her to turn her shots over. Now, Yulisa Guzman, interesting, she lost her professional debut, but she was facing another debutant. This was back in 2015, so she's been a pro coming up to like 8 years now, and the only other person she actually lost to was Yemilef Mercado, who is actually one of the champions at the weight, so that's not a bad person to lose to. Outside of that, she's faced, tough opposition. She's not necessarily faced like the who's who in terms of names, but in terms of her toughness and her will to win, it is second to none. So Ramla's going to have to be on her P's and Q's pretty much the entire fight. Guzman, 26, and she's Mexican, if I remember correctly. So definitely the one thing I know for a fact she will have in this particular fight is a gas tank, because a lot of them train high altitude. It's very high altitude around sort of Mexico City and some of the other territories there, so you've got to have very strong lungs and cardio capacity, and that is one thing we do know about those areas. So Ramla is going to have to basically box, move, and try to gain rest every time she can. Every time she throws out the jab, whenever she's pulling it back, move off to the side so she can take a deep breath and go for another attack. I would not advise her to try and trade off against Guzman in this particular fight, because if she does that, I do think she will come off second best. Guzman can crack, and all she needs is one opportunity, because she will be relentless on the second phase if she does get Ramla buzzed, hurt, or slightly worried with the power. This is a difficult one for Ramla, but it's the kind of test that she does need, and I do think she will just about come through. I can see this one being a very, very close fought fight. I believe it's a 10 rounder, so I'm seeing this as sort of like a 97-94 type thing, 96-94, 97-93, in and around that. For the most part, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a draw card in there, so like a majority decision, like a 95-95, and then you get sort of 2 cards for Ramla, like a 93, 97-93, 96-94, 97-94 type scenario. But I do think that she will get the decision, but it will be a much harder fight than probably expected. Next, moving on to the main event of this card, it is Regis Prograis, Rougarou versus Danielito Zorrilla. Now, I've seen Zorrilla a couple of times, but I've never really studied any of his fights. But he's a pretty decent operator, and obviously he's a last-minute replacement. Okay, maybe not last minute, but 3-week replacement, 3.5 weeks, because Liam Parrow pulled out through injury. This is actually the second time on the bounce, I believe, he's pulled out due to injury, so that's something to maybe look at moving forward. But Regis has got I mean, he's got the pressure of being the hometown fighter with everyone basically coming to see him. He normally seems to be quite good on the road, but I'm sure that while him being at home with his home comforts, he's looking to go and put on a show. I don't see this fight going the distance, if I'm honest. I do think that Regis will... He's not looking to stick around because he wants bigger fights. He knows that he has to make a statement here, but I don't think he's going to rush his work either. So ultimately, I do think Regis wins this fight via KO stoppage in the 7th round. I think Zorrilla is going to, he's going to put up a sturdy test in the first couple. It's going to be tricky for the first 2 to 3 rounds until Regis really gets into his rhythm, gets his pace. But when he starts picking his shots, I just don't think that Zorrilla is going to be there mentally to be able to compete with that, and he'll either capitulate or he'll get caught in a barrage where the ref will wave it off. Either that, or he may end up hitting the canvas and not making a 10 count. But either way, I'm predicting stoppage in and around the 7th round. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on real quick to the Showtime card, which is headlined by Tim Tszyu. Okay, so in this one, real quick, you've got Sam Goodman versus Regis Salim. Basically, without sort of going too much into detail, I haven't seen a huge amount of Sam Goodman, but I've seen more than enough of Regis Salim. He's 20-0, Sam Goodman's 14-0. I think that the extra experience from Regis plus his amateur pedigree and sort of the gyms that he works in is going to stand him in good stead in this particular fight. I personally see it going the distance, but I do see Regis Salim winning quite comfortably UD. So I won't go into too much more detail. That's kind of how I see that one going. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 8th or 9th round sort of KO within there, but I'm going to go conservatively on points just because I haven't seen enough of Sam Goodman to really give a proper breakdown. Okay, next we go to the second fight of the night, which is Tim Tszyu versus Carlos Ocampos. Now Ocampos is 35-2. He has one loss by KO, which was to Errol Spence Jr. back in 2018 in the first round. Other than that, he lost a points decision to Sebastian Fundora back in 2021, I believe it was, although I could be slightly off there. He's taking on Tim Tszyu, 22-0 at the moment, I believe, with 14 or 15 KOs. Might be a slightly higher than that, but this is classic. This is 2 pressure fighters, but one is more of an ambush fighter, whereas the other one is more of a sort of a pressure and setup kind of artist. So I think 154 definitely suits Ocampos better than 147 did. I think he was pretty drained at that weight. But Tim Tszyu, he hits hard. Not only does he hit hard, he does do a lot of investment to the body. He shoots to the head sort of after he's managed to lower guard and sort of work and invest quite a bit into the body. He does come forward in straight lines quite a bit. He doesn't employ a huge amount of head movement. So if Ocampo can maybe time him coming in, he could definitely drop him. We've seen that Tim Tszyu can be dropped, flash knockdowns, but it is possible. We've seen it happen previously within the last couple of fights. So I think he's going to have to obviously be very careful of the way he's exiting the pocket, especially when he's trying to unload sort of his sort of brief combinations. He's got a very good uppercut though, so if Ocampos tries to slip and roll a jab, he can definitely end up walking onto an uppercut or leaning his head into an uppercut, which is the same thing that Tony Harrison did on occasions in their fight back towards the end of last year. So ultimately, I do think that Tim Tszyu, this is kind of the right preparation. He needs to get himself back into the swing of things for that potential Jermell Charlo fight, which is supposed to be happening, I believe, around about September, October time. And yeah, ultimately, I do think that Tim Tszyu is going to get the KO victory here. I think he's going to get a stoppage around about the 9th to 10th round. I do think it will come late in the fight because the Ocampos is going to come to fight. I don't think it will happen anytime before then. Of course, anything can happen. Anyway, that's my picks for today, so please leave yours down below. Let me know what you think, let me know who you're backing, and we'll see who's right, we'll see who's wrong. We'll talk about it on the weekend wrap this Sunday. A couple other videos to do right now, so for now, thank you very much for watching. That's Basis Picks, locked.